Hey guys, it's Chris. I actually had some plans this morning. I just got a text and they said they're running about half an hour late, so I stopped and thought, you know what? That is the perfect amount of time to make a video. So here I am. I wanted to talk to you guys for a few minutes before I left and started my day. I, as I mentioned, am a teacher, so I'm not a computer scientist by trade, but my kids at school, this is a high school, so they're starting to kind of think a little bit, what do I want to do with my life? And a couple of them have gotten interested in this, and they ask me, Mr. Wolf, what language should I learn, and what code editor should I use? These are the most asked questions to me. From what I hear, the most asked questions for everybody else, and that's understandable. I get it. There is so there are so many options in software development that it's really kind of scary to know where to start. You know, C is a powerhouse, but it's really hard to learn. Python's a little bit simpler. It's kind of a question. And my response to that is always the same. Well, actually, before I get to languages, let me start with code editors. My answer to what code editor should I use is who cares? Really, all of them are good. All of them are pretty good. Sit there on Notepad for all I care and write your code there. You know, the code editor is just the tool. And while it's true you don't want to use a bad tool, a master can do anything with anything. But to give my personal preferences, I am switching back and forth between Atom and Vim. Okay. Vim is a monster. Like, everyone loves Vim. Or everyone hates Vim. It's kind of a camp sort of situation. People will argue between Vim and Emacs. I'll go and toss on there, I have never used Emacs. Not because I don't want to, but because why am I going to spend time learning a code editor when I could be learning code? The only reason I use Vim now is because it's what I used in college. And my professors made us use it for the first semester. And then after that, we got a little bit more wiggle room, and I was like, well, I already know how to use Vim. Why don't I use that? But I have been playing around with Atom, just because Vim's plugin managers, maybe it's just that I'm not very good at them, but they go over my head. I can't deal with all that. So I'm using Atom right now, and the plugin manager is very simple. Go to settings, install, find the plugin you want, and click install, and it'll be there. So that's kind of nice. What I also really like about Atom is Atom can easily be used by any of the three main operating systems: Mac, Windows, and Linux. Easy to install on everything. All right. Vim can easily be used on Linux and Mac, but Windows kind of makes it a bit of a pain to work with, as Windows tends to. Not talking bad about Windows. I used Windows for a number of years. I switched to a Mac about 6-7 months ago, and I'm in love. I'm not going to start that debate, Mac or Windows, whatever. Who cares? Like, you can do anything with any of those systems. It's just, what do you feel more comfortable behind? And I felt like my Mac has been more intuitive. But it is comforting to know that if I ever had to write code on Windows, I could go get Atom. Now, compiling and all that stuff, a little bit more tricky. But the actual code writing is just as simple on a Windows as it would be on a Mac. And that's comforting to me. I use a Mac as my daily driver. I've got the 13-inch MacBook Pro. It goes with me everywhere I go. But then at work, I've got a Windows machine. And I also have a whole old laptop that has Windows and Linux, Ubuntu, dual booted on it. It's nice to be able to open up any of those and do the same thing on any of those and not have to stress out about it. So that's my thought on code editors. For beginners, I'd really recommend Atom. If you know that you're going to commit to this, try to learn Vim, I guess. But apart from that, who really cares? Some people still use Notepad++. Fine, use Notepad++. Who cares? The important part is the language, I think. A lot of people start with C. And I get it. It's not a bad choice. But it's the most difficult choice, I think. There is no hand-holding in C at all. And some of you may like that challenge, and that's fine. I don't know if I could go back. I don't know that's what I would do. I started with Java. I find Java to be a pretty middle of the road language. It's not as simple as some other languages, so you do have to understand like code hierarchy and all that stuff to really even start it. But it does hold your hand a little bit more than C, C++, those types of things. So Java was a good starting place for me. But when people ask me what language should I start with, I always ask them the same question. What do you want to do? Right? If someone tells me that they want to design websites, I'm not going to go tell them to learn like C or C sharp. You know, if you know what you want to do, learn the tools to do that. So if you want to do front end web development, learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. What's nice about those is those are the three, I think, some of the three simplest languages to learn. JavaScript is a little bit more complicated compared to HTML and CSS, but they do different things. HTML is what makes the content on the website. CSS is what makes the website look the way it does, and JavaScript is what makes it do what it does. That's a very overgeneralization. It doesn't actually work that way, but there's a good place to start in your head. So that's my recommendation. Okay, if you want to do front-end web development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And if you don't know what you want to do, I'd say that's probably the best place to start. HTML, anybody could sit down and make a decent HTML site within probably about half an hour to 45 minutes. It's very simple to learn. Now, once you start adding the CSS and the JavaScript, and you start adding some libraries like jQuery, Bootstrap, those types of things, okay, yeah, it gets complicated. Just like the rest of these things, none of them are easy to master. Some of them are just easier to start. So if you don't know what you want to do, I'd say front-end web development. At least try that first, okay? If you do know what you want to do, and that's not it, like if you know you want to handle the back end, you want to handle the server that the websites communicate with. The biggest one I'm seeing now is Python, but PHP is still a thing. Ruby on Rails is still a thing. Probably learn all those. And, figure both of those languages out. All three of those languages out, excuse me. And especially if you're doing web development, don't dig yourself into a hole. Don't just do front-end development. That can be your focus, but it can hurt you to know some back-end stuff too. Learn some of the back-end development. That way, either you can do both, and that makes you more valuable to a potential employer, or you understand the other parts of your team. Like you're sitting there doing front-end development, but you already kind of know a little bit about what the back-end team's going to have to do. That works out well. I find I'd rather have too much knowledge than not enough knowledge. So I don't know much back-end. I know a bit of front-end. That's kind of what I'm learning right now. I'm taking a free code camp. If you haven't studied free code camp, for one, it's free. So that's great. Second, it's really good. The projects are they are small enough that you don't feel overwhelmed, but large enough that you feel like you've accomplished something, which I think is really important. Really, really important. But web development is not for everyone. Honestly, some people just don't like it. Some people want to deal with more with like the core. They want to write full out applications that you click on your desktop and open up, or maybe you want to do mobile app stuff, things like that. That really depends on what you want to do. The next big one after web development, that seems to be one, the most popular, and two, the most needed. So if you know you just want to get into computers, web development is probably a good place to start. And there's nothing to say that while you have that web development job, you can't be learning other languages and other skills outside of web development. Once you get home at 5 or 6 o'clock, that is your time. Study if you want to. Study for something else. Or study at what you're doing to get better. That's up to you. Or if you're happy where you are, sit down, turn on the game, turn on the PS4, whatever, and relax. That's fine too. But just be aware that just because you start in web development or anything else doesn't mean you have to stay there. Okay? So give that a try. If you don't know what you want to do, try web development. And then if you don't like it, try something else. You're not signing any contracts right now. You're just turning on the computer learning something. Other fields that are really popular, after web development, I find that mobile development is really popular too. So what it comes down to is there's Team iPhone, there's Team Android, there's a couple others. If you're Team Windows, and I don't know what to tell you, but those are the two big ones: Android and iPhone. I'm not going to debate which one's better, which one's worse. I personally use iPhone right now. I use Apple everything for my daily stuff. I've got an iPhone in my pocket, MacBook on my desk right now, and I'd like to get an iPad in the coming future. But I find that connectivity works well. I'm not saying that that's better. I'm saying that's better for me. Okay? So if I were to get into mobile app development, I'd probably do iOS. So in that case, you need to research Swift. That's a relatively new language, maybe within the last 2 or 3 years, that Apple came out with to replace Objective-C. Swift is now the primary iOS development language. So, stands to reason if you want to learn how to write those apps, you have to learn that language. If you are on Team Android and you want to write Android apps, you probably need to learn Java. Java, and I'd say some understanding of the Linux operating system too. So there you go. Web development, learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you want to do backend development, Python, PHP, Ruby on Rails. Out of all those, I'd say Python is probably the biggest one. iPhone development, go iOS, Swift. Android development, go Java. And if you want to just deal with computers in a super general way, that's where I'd recommend the C family. C, C++. Those are both very good languages. They let you touch the computer on a more fundamental level than the other languages we've discussed, at least easier. So that's a good place. And because my second language was C when I took CS50, and it was tough, but I'm grateful for that knowledge I have now because, to be quite honest, every other language has been easier by comparison. So there you have it. Those are the languages I go with. Those are the code editors I go with. Again, if you don't want anything fancy, you just want a place to type out some code, Atom is fantastic. Get Atom. If you want to be a professional and act a little bit more nerdy and cooperate with your terminal a little bit more, Vim is a very good investment, but just be aware it is an investment. You're going to have to spend quite a bit of time working on that. Okay? Then, what else is there? Languages, again, web development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, then the JavaScript libraries, jQuery, Bootstrap, those types of things. Backend development, do Python. At least start with Python. Excuse me. Then if you want to do mobile app development, learn Swift and Java. And if you just want to learn about your computer, C, C++. A lot of people want to go into game design too. Game design is very difficult. It's a lot of C++ and a lot of C# from what I can see. So those are your answers. There you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you guys take some of this to heart. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Bye, guys.